What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, the review embargo lifted for God of War Ragnarok, which is out next week, and it looks like Elden Ring could have some competition for that Game of the Year trophy in the next month or so, with big numbers popping up all over the place for Ragnarok. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo as they did unveil their Black Friday sales, and, well, it's super unique. They've never done this one before. And while we're on the topic of Switch sales, we'll be taking a look at the Famitsu sales charts, as something has happened here that, well, hasn't happened in a long time. The Switch actually wasn't the best-selling system that week. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with a couple of games that may have leaked out a bit early through the Korean ratings board, as it tends to do pretty consistently. One seems to be lined up for a PlayStation Plus Premium Edition. The other one was kind of out of left field. We can see this over on Gamatsu. They have Syphon Filter 3, that of course would go to the PlayStation Plus Premium service, we assume, for the PS5 and PS4. And then Ghost Trick. That would be the one out of left field. I've never actually played Ghost Trick, but there were people who were pretty excited seeing that one popped up, and probably a bit surprised as well. It was an adventure game on the DS and also on iOS for Apple phones there. So hey, who knows? Maybe Capcom has this one lined up for a remaster or a port to maybe the Switch or other platforms. Syphon Filter 3, I think it's pretty safe to say that'll head into the PlayStation Plus Premium as soon as this month. Otherwise, though, I think it'll end up in December to close out this year. I mean, the other Syphon Filters have already gone in. Makes sense that they would drop the third one in there. I would like them to look outside, though, of the PS1 and maybe go to the PSP and grab the Syphon Filter that released on there, just to give the PSP some kind of love here for this service. But I guess we'll find out if they have some other things in store for us as we head into November. Also, with Sonic Frontiers quickly approaching, it's out next week, there is, of course, the eShop listing, and people were looking through it, and it appears that they will be taking advantage of AMD FSR, which we can see this noticed on Twitter and posted up by Naruki. Scrolling through and seeing that in some of the copyright and trademark details and all of this. AMD FSR, that's their super resolution from AMD. It's been used in a couple of games now with, I know, Switch Sports, Splatoon 3, Life is Strange used it, I believe. So it's been leveraged here and there, of course, to clean up image quality. And I have to say, Sonic Frontiers on the Switch is going to be an interesting one. There has already been leaked footage getting out there. The game itself is basically leaked online, and I think they're playing I believe the PlayStation version is what's gotten out there, and it doesn't look bad or anything, but it certainly looks rough at times just based on some of the gameplay footage. So I'm gonna be curious to see the Switch version and how that one runs. I mean, recently what we've seen with some Sonic games like Sonic Colors Ultimate hasn't been the smoothest launch for Sega. Oh, and we did actually get comment from Hideo Kojima around that entire abandoned situation that really spiraled out of control there for a while. But this was in his podcast. He had Jeff Keighley on, and that came up in the conversation. We can see this transcribed by VGC from Kojima saying, "Users just kept sending me pictures of this Hassan. They still send me collages and deep fake images, like 20 a day. It's really quite a nuisance." He goes on to say, "When we did that Moby Dick thing, you, Jeff, were in on the whole thing, and that was pretty fun, but people should know that I wouldn't do the same thing twice." That was kind of this weird way that Kojima presented Metal Gear Solid 5 with like a fake development studio and all this. That's one of the reasons people were looking at Abandon kind of sideways. But he goes on to say, "I've never spoken with Hassan. The game is yet to be released. I don't think there's much he can do or say at this point, but if he releases the game, people might understand. So maybe he should just hurry up and release it." Yeah, something tells me that's probably not going to happen. I kind of think Abandon is going to slowly fade into the background and end up being abandoned. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with God of War Ragnarok Reviews went live yesterday. It was noon Eastern time, and I was very curious how this was going to go, mostly because we've been seeing sequels for like Horizon Forbidden West come in like a point or two lower than the original one, despite people saying it was better, or we even saw it with Bayonetta 3. And a lot of that people are thinking has to do with kind of the sequelitis feeling, where it's like, I've been here before. Sure, they've improved it a bit, but it hasn't been groundbreaking or this massive leap like we saw with the first one, that it's based on. Not the case here, at least it appears anyway, for now, with God of War Ragnarok. We can see this over on Metacritic, sitting at a 94, and that's on 116 critic reviews, so certainly not lacking opinions on this one. And typically, as you see more review scores come in, of course, it can shift either way, but when you have a review score that's pretty high, which this, I think, came in at a 95 originally, and then it kind of dropped down, it's tough to hold that high 90s review score, which is one of the reasons it's very impressive for Elden Ring to be at a 96. And by the way, this puts God of War Ragnarok right there with it, and I'm sure it's gonna probably come down to God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring for Game of the Year contention here in about a month. Hey, unless Sonic Frontiers absolutely shock and all next week. But we can see here the critic split. As expected, 116 positive, 0 mixed, 0 negative. And in fact, there are several perfect scores. I believe IGN gave it a 10 as an example. We can see gamer.no, Atomics, Trusted Reviews, Game Rant, Digital Chumps, Daily Star, VG247. The list goes on and on and on for perfect scores, and many of these reviews read that as if this is the greatest PlayStation game ever made. In fact, there are some that I believe say that almost verbatim. IGN had an interesting excerpt talking about it, saying God of War Ragnarok is an almighty achievement and creates a new high that makes many of its peers look mortal by comparison. Gaming Bolt said God of War Ragnarok surpasses its predecessor in every way, which is high praise because God of War 2018 is pretty much my favorite game from the PlayStation 4 generation. So while Ragnarok, yes, is I think a PS4 game at heart, it still looks super impressive on the PS5, and I have a feeling I'm going to absolutely love this one as well. Oh, and while we're on the topic of the PS5 version, they did release graphics modes from Sony Santa Monica for this game, so you can take a look here, and there are several different ways you can go with this one. I mean, if you have it on the PS4, you're mostly going to be playing at 30 FPS, but the image quality will vary if you're using the PS4 Pro or the regular standard PS4, which, I mean, they say 1080p 30 on the standard system, of course, from 2013. So that's pretty impressive there. But looking at the PS5, we have performance and quality mode, so you can go for that 60 FPS mode, or you can just say, hey, you know what, I want to see it as best as it can look at 30 FPS. You can also use the variable refresh rate tied in, looking even at 40 FPS, which is something that has become more and more common, especially with Sony, to aim for that 40 FPS target. For me, I'm going to stick with performance mode. Digital Foundry has an entire video up now going over all the technical features and the sides of things with it, and it still looks really good. So I'd prefer to have the better feel of 60 FPS over 30, even if maybe one wall doesn't look nearly as shiny. But I'm really excited for this one. My only problem is now, it's less than a week, yes, but it's like 5 days until it comes out, and I have to avoid spoilers all over the place and then just get there. So here's hoping can avoid any of that. Gonna mute some keywords on Twitter, eyes down, and just try to get to Wednesday, or I don't know, Tuesday at midnight. I think it's one of those games. Gonna have to play it as soon as it goes live. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and their Black Friday sales that they revealed yesterday, and you may recognize one of these sales because it's the exact same bundle they've been running for years now, basically since the Switch came out. I mean, take a look. This is over on their sales page with, yeah, the Black Friday system bundle. It's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, 3 months of Nintendo Switch Online, and the Switch, not even the OLED model, just like the regular red box Switch, at $300. Okay, I guess. I mean, it seems to work for them, but I will say this. I've seen this bundle in stores pretty recently. I think last month it was just sitting in a Walmart. So these aren't actually like necessarily rare or anything. The offer begins on the 20th of November. I mean, it's not a bad deal. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a good game. from the Wii U, but I still prefer the OLED Switch. And that's kind of the way I'm going to stick with things here. If you're getting a Switch, get the OLED model and get Mario Kart later on or something. I just think the quality of that screen is just so much better. It's worth going that direction. But when it comes to games, they're going to be marking $20 off of several of their first-party titles. Mario Party Superstars, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild, which came out when the Switch came out, will go down to $40. Animal Crossing New Horizons, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, Fire Emblem Three Hopes, and Bravely Default 2. They're also knocking $40 off of the Mario Kart Live home circuit sets. So depending on the retailers you find it, I guess they'd be $60. And then they also have 33% off of select games. They have listed WarioWare Get It Together, Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain, the games there for the Nintendo Switch, again, at participating retailers. All of this starting on the 20th of November. They have that running until the 27th, that entire week. Now, this, of course, is just Nintendo. We'll keep an eye out for Best Buy, Walmart, Target, GameStop, anyone who's running any really good deals, especially if you get GameStop to show up and they do one of their buy two, get two free or something for used games. I know GameFly will play around with that idea as well. So while Nintendo's Black Friday sales not exactly exploding off the screen here and nothing too original when it comes to the system itself, the same thing we've seen for years now, I'm still curious what other retailers will do, whether it's a Best Buy, a Walmart, a Target, GameStop, which at times GameStop will do these used game sales where it's you buy two, you get two or even three free on top of that, depending on the pricing there. GameFly will do some things. So there's still a lot of places to look for good deals. And I guess technically, if you want to go the route of this Redbox Switch and get Mario Kart, you take a look at the pricing. It's not too bad, but I still recommend holding out for that Switch OLED. I just think the quality overall is there. But there you have it. That would be Nintendo's Black Friday sales for 2022. Next up, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts. This, of course, covers sales in Japan week to week, and we'll take a look at these from time to time when new releases happen. But something basically remains constant, and that's the Switch is always at the top for hardware. But something happened this week, and it looks like the Switch is actually coming in second this time. It's been a long time since I've seen this. But first, let's start over with the games in the top 10, starting with Splatoon 3, 51,547. This game is basically unstoppable in Japan. Right below that, Bayonetta 3, 41,285. Not the greatest opening for Bayonetta 3, considering Bayonetta 2, I think was just over 38,000 with a much smaller install size for the Wii U. So this being like 3,000 copies more. I mean, Japan seems to be a weaker territory for Bayonetta, so we'll have to find out more about this game when we get the MPD sales results next month. Then we have Star Ocean, The Divine Force, 27,000 copies. Even if you take the PS5 version, add those in, it's still less than half of what Faithlessness did, which is very unfortunate right now for Star Ocean. But again, we'll see if maybe it had a really good digital split or something there. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is in at 4, then Ace Angler at 5, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 again, that being on the PS5 at 6, Star Ocean at 7, Aquarium at 8, Persona 5 Royal at 9, and then Needy Girl at 10. Moving over to the hardware, the PS5 was at the top, 38,866, with the Switch following closely behind, 38,634. It's close to margin of error, but I mean, the PS5 sold a little over 200 systems more than the Switch. It looks very weird on the charts. I will say that based on what we're used to here. On the Xbox Series, 3,674, the 3DS at 56, and then 11 people picked up a PS4. Now, there are a few ways you can kind of read this, what's happened here with the PS5 overtaking the Switch, at least for this week. I've seen some people say, oh, they're stockpiling for Pokemon. I mean, I guess, I don't know if Pokemon is going to do what Sword and Shield did, where the Switch sells 180 to 190,000 systems. Basically, I don't think they would need to stockpile Switch systems to meet demand for Pokemon, because I just feel like they're starting to reach saturation in Japan and really everywhere in the world. Think about how many Switch systems are out there. In Japan alone, 26.5 million systems. We're getting to a position where I feel like most people who want a Switch have one. So Nintendo at that point would have to recognize this and either pivot and start talking about, okay, what's next for the hardware, whether it is next generation, or will they do something to refresh the hardware and sell people the same kind of Switch family of systems all over again, sure, with maybe a more powerful device or something like that. So we'll see as we go along. I believe the Switch will probably end up at the #1 hardware spot again next week as the PS5 comes in and out of stock as it is anyway, but still something to consider there as we are starting to see the Switch falter a bit even in Japan. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Symbiogenesis and that trademark that was spotted from Square Enix not too long ago. It did seem like we were all kind of tying it to maybe something with Parasite Eve, a new game in the series, maybe a remaster, a code name for a project even. Well, Square Enix had other plans. We can see this over on VGC. Square Enix has announced a playable NFT collectible art experience. It's described by the publisher as a new franchise. Oh boy, okay. The art collected by players can be used as a character in a story that takes place in an alternate world where the player can untangle a mystery by completing missions that revolve around questions of the monopolization and distribution of resources. Oh, it can also be used as a social media profile picture. All right, apparently sales of the Symbiogenesis NFTs will begin in spring 2023 alongside a free browser service. There's also a Twitter account that they've set up to kind of convey messages, releases, and all this, and really it's just people on Twitter attempting to ratio every single message that they put out about this NFT art experience. Square's told us they are interested in blockchain technology, and obviously it's because they had seen the money that was going on prior to the massive crypto crash, and I guess they still think that there is a path out there for them to make a ton of money someday in it, certainly not now anyway, and maybe they're thinking, oh, we'll get set up, we'll get some sort of game, have some traction, or again, whatever this is, and maybe in a couple of years or something, things will pick back up, and then they'll be swimming in money, or who knows, maybe just a bunch of worthless NFTs. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, which I do that every day before Newswave. I'll put something up on the community tab so you can vote there, and let's see what we have. God of War Ragnarok reviews are in, and it's currently sitting at a 94 on Metacritic. Are you picking it up? I'm a little surprised. It's almost split down the middle. 53% say yes, 47% say no. I mean, it's the second highest rated game of the year. I kind of thought it'd be leaning more towards the yes for this. It's been a bit of a slower year in gaming if you really look around at, I mean, even the reviews. We have, God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring as the top 2 games, and there wasn't a lot that broke into the 90s. I feel like every year we have like 5 or 6 really good games that people look at and go, yeah, it's obviously going to be in the game of the year. But this year, after you get past God of War and Elden Ring, I mean, it's really anyone's shot at being nominated for Game of the Year. And you know what? We might even see Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in there, and that's a game series that, let's face it, typically gets kind of ignored by the Game Awards. But this year, I think it could be right there alongside of God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring. So exciting stuff, at least going into the Game Awards, because who knows what's going to happen. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Superman saying, my issue with PSVR 2 is the fact that it's not backwards compatible with PSVR games. I couldn't afford a PSVR during the PS4 life cycle, but it had games like Batman Arkham VR that I really wanted to try. I always thought I'd wait for the next Sony VR system and play it then. Now I'm in a situation financially where I can get a PSVR 2 and I have to wait and hope that the devs bring their games forward. And I'm going to tell you now, when the PSVR 2 comes out and you put it on and you look through the heavily upgraded screens, I cannot recommend going back to that original PSVR that now feels outdated, and there is no PSVR 2 right this second. So that's the biggest issue currently is, as you say, no backwards compatibility. You have to cross your fingers and hope that developers feel the need to go back and port these games up, upgrade them in some way. I think it's a good idea because the library will be limited at launch, so You very well could end up selling several copies to people who are just looking for something to try out their new headset with, but we'll see if that's a train of thought that follows through with some of those more classic titles, as you say, like Batman. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was God of War Ragnarok coming in currently at a 94 on Metacritic. Are you going to be picking that one up next week? And which mode are you going to be playing, Fidelity or Performance? And then also, what about Nintendo's Black Friday sales? Are you surprised that once again it's the Switch and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.